sent Brian to go help with our accounts. I froze up all of our my accounts, and because they had broken the door area, like the compartments, the passenger side compartments. So yeah, we are live. I don't look too crazy, so we'll just give this a little bit for folks to start hopping on, and for me to kind of share this out and let them know that we are live and getting started. Awesome.
Just you and I are good at conversing.
Yes,
it's okay.
I know. We can fill this up. Well, good afternoon and happy Friday to all of you. I hope you've had a great week. I feel like this is one of those weeks where it was just a constant, right?
Yeah.
And it's always amazing because when I feel like that, everyone else is in that same boat. So I don't know what's going on, but we're all actively staying busy. If this is your very first time on KUHS Denver, welcome to our segment today. I am your host of The Self-Care Boss is how I branded myself, because I do a lot of self-care advocacy and work to emphasize the need for health and wellness. And oh yeah, can you still hear me, or do I need to repeat?
You better repeat.
Oh really?
I heard you waiting in the background with some music.
Oh really?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, well this is great. So most of you will hopefully be hearing us right now. If you can hear me, you can give us a thumbs up, or later on you can come and let us know that you could hear us just fine. I am your host, Juliette Abdel. Of course, this segment is my 1 p.m. segment here on KUHS Denver every Friday. And it is geared toward health and wealth. We generally have guests that either cross both sides of the aisle, being business owners or entrepreneurs of themselves. Sometimes they're in the industry of health, and sometimes what they do just personally touches health and wellness and all things related to that. So you'll see several different guests that I have been very blessed to meet along my life's journey with me. And I always like to start the week with something that you can commiserate with me about. Last week was about Ramadan and how I was fasting for what seemed like forever. This week I'm just going to encourage you one thing, and that is to make sure that all your doors are locked in your vehicles and your personal items are taken out. I unfortunately woke up to having my vehicle completely destroyed. So that was a very unfortunate situation, but I look at it as a blessing, and here's why. Because yesterday, before I went out to do my last activity, I had my wallet in my bag, and then when I got home I couldn't find my wallet, and I was like, oh my gosh, did I leave it at the place I was last in? Did I leave it at the house? And then I was like, I'll just check in the morning if it's in my car. Well, something told me to go and check if it was in my car, and I did, and it was in that little crevice between the driver's side and the console. And had I not gone back, right, like not only would they have damaged and taken what they already had taken, but they also would have had all of that information. So isn't that wild how
it is. Yeah, you have to listen to your intuition.
You do.
I'm just a firm believer in that.
Oh, I totally believe that there's a pull for a reason, right?
Absolutely.
So our segment today, of course, is with one of my lovely guests that I've met over 6.5 years ago now. It hasn't been that long. It's flown by. Now, Joni, I want you to introduce yourself to everyone that's listening now or listening later on. And I know you wear numerous hats. We'll be talking about one in specific, but you can introduce yourself with everything that you would like to.
Okay, well, let's see. I was born in, no, I won't go quite that far. Okay. Hi, I'm Joni Inman, and I own a business and government affairs consulting firm. And with that hat on, I do a lot of work on community engagement issues, policy issues, and I also work a lot with small businesses. Businesses ranging from IT companies to elevator companies to just you name it, landscape companies, you name it. I've worked with a lot of small businesses. And then I also am the executive director of the Colorado Women's Alliance, and that's a statewide nonprofit organization that's dedicated to research and advocacy and education around the issues that matter most to female voters. And so we have a little bit to talk about there, and Juliet is actually on our advisory council for that, so we get the opportunity to work together a lot.
I always enjoy whenever we do. I try and find the times that we can do it more often, for sure.
Yeah.
So you touched on a number of things, and I want to peel back a few of those items before we really deep dive into the Colorado Women's Alliance. But one of the things that you highlighted was your focus on supporting all types of business and small businesses. And I know through that lens, you've probably worked with a lot of female owned or women-owned businesses in the area. What have you seen to be a driving success factor in your opinion?
Yeah, I've worked with both female-owned and male-owned and family-owned businesses. You know, over the years I've been at that for about 13 years now, so I've worked with a lot of them. Primarily women-owned businesses will come and say, hey, the women owners will say, I just need a little bit of guidance, right? I just need a little bit of support here. And that's something, you know, women, let me just say this, women are creatures that like to support one another. We get this bad rap, right? People think that women are competitive. And I can tell you that is, in my experience, and I'm not a young woman, in my experience over the years, quite the opposite, that we don't sabotage each other, that we do hold each other up and we do support each other. And so along those lines, female business owners also reach out and they say, you know, I just need a little bit of support here, or I need some new ideas, or you know, how can you help me through this problem? And I think that they're so dedicated and multitask, right? They're balancing families and careers and their businesses and, you know, everything else that they're doing on the side, they're crafting or whatever they want to do, and they're just so dedicated to everything. They want to do it right, and they're willing to put in the work to do it.
Yeah, that is, and where is that in contrast with men? So we talk about how you've worked with women, men, and families and all types of businesses. So are you seeing that men also have that driving force to support one another once they get started and going, or what are some maybe distinctive differences in that?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. And then let's talk about family-owned businesses too, because those
mine as well.
Yeah, those are really challenging. But male business owners, solo entrepreneurs, right? They are laser focused on the mechanics of, and I'm speaking in generalities here, of course, it's not every man, but laser focused on getting it done, whatever it takes to get it done. And often it's difficult to convince a male entrepreneur that maybe we can get more done if we slow down and we widen the field and we bring others in and we ask for some advice. And you ask for advice, you don't have to take it, but hear different perspectives and things like that, where women are more likely to ask for the collaboration ahead of time.
Okay.
Even before starting a business, they'll talk about what's it going to take and how much time is it going to take and what about my kids and what about my family, and is now the right time or should I delay it or whatever, you know, whereas men starting businesses tend to go, you know, I've always wanted to do this and I'm going to do it now, and then they just charge off to do it.
That is very interesting.
Both can be successful.
There's not one that's better than the next in the approach, but now that you're speaking this, it is a great idea for you all to kind of go back and see us. Over the last month, we had a couple that we interviewed separately, business owners, right? One that was a male-owned business and one that was a female-owned business. And it's exactly that. If you hear their spiel, you're going to see exactly what Joni was sharing, because you had Keelan talking about how she researched everything and wanted to know the market and the pricing and, you know, spent so much time around. And then you had John from Faux and Jenny Faux. And so, and when I asked him the question, it was more, well, I wanted to do this, and so I went ahead and started and looped in my, and so it was very interesting in how they started out. And so to hear that that is not necessarily the end all be all, right?
Mhm.
Like, but that it is more common. That's
Yeah.
an interesting take on it.
Yeah, and you know, there are more women business owners than male business owners in the state of Colorado today. A lot more women starting businesses. A lot of them have waited until their families are grown to start their businesses so they can dedicate the time
Right.
to it.
Yeah.
But by and large, the entrepreneurs in Colorado, there are far more females than males.
Yeah.
Now the interesting combo is when you have a husband and wife combo,
Right.
or you have, in the case of one of our Colorado Women's Alliance certified businesses, one of my clients, you've got a father and his daughters running a company,
Yeah.
and you have all these family dynamics
Yeah.
that go into it, right? And everything that you have going on in the family dynamic does come into the workplace dynamic, right? And so just being aware of that.
Right.
Where we tend to have the most problems is where, let's say, a husband and wife own a company where they haven't delineated their responsibilities, their roles and their responsibilities. So I typically work with my clients and say, okay, what are the things that you, wife, are going to be solely responsible for, and you can go ahead and make the decisions, and without consulting husband. And husband, what are those things you're going to be solely responsible for? And then what's the threshold? At what point do we agree this is a joint decision?
Right. Yeah.
Right? So the company can move forward.
Yeah.
Is it hiring? Is it a level of expenditure? You know, what is it?
And I think that's also another feather in your hat for those of you that are tuned in and maybe thinking about starting up your own business with your significant other, or your husband, or your family members, having that clear and distinct duties, but also doing that ahead of time instead of waiting until that conflict has risen up, because it will not only carry over when you have personal life into your work, but when you have work drama back into that home environment. So it's so important to have that as separate and balanced as possible.
It's very difficult. Family-owned businesses are tough.
Yes. Oh yeah. I can. Yeah. I would not. You know, I love my family. You know, that's never in it. No. Not do it. No. Wouldn't do it with significant other. I need my time away. Right. Like that's. And I think that's a balance of your personality and your ability and your expectation and what you know and all those other factors. But you shared something quickly in your conversation a moment ago about certified woman-owned business. So let's talk about what that certification is, who offers that, and who are you seeing that's getting behind this?
So this is a program under the Colorado Women's Alliance, and again, the Colorado Women's Alliance is a statewide nonprofit organization. And often, and this is how it started, often we go out and we do training. We do a lot of training on things like, Colorado women, does the community know your name? How do you get involved? How do you, how do you know who to call if you have a problem with something, or you want to add something to the conversation? And we go out and do these trainings, and we get asked all the time, well, do you know any women-owned businesses or any businesses that have women in leadership positions that do X, Y, or Z, right? Okay. And we didn't really. We didn't have a way to track that, right? And one day it just hit me, we're getting this question a lot. So let's develop a program, but let's make sure that the certified businesses, so we developed this Colorado Women's Alliance Certified Business Program, let's make sure that those businesses have Colorado roots, that they have women in leadership positions that don't have to be women-owned, right? Yeah. And that they adhere to our values as an organization. And those values are open communication and free enterprise and, all of the things that we stand behind, right? And we'll vet them. So we started the program, businesses in Colorado. This isn't something for like Pepsi or Coke, right? It's Colorado-based businesses or businesses with Colorado roots can apply for certification. And once they do that, we vet them. We do a reputation background check on them. We do site visits on them.
So that's pretty integrated.
We interview them, and we make sure that, I'd be proud to have that owner wearing a Colorado Women's Alliance shirt, and we'd be proud to have, that business
Sure.
on our shirt. And then if they pass the muster, right, then we issue a certification for 1 year. And it's not a marketing program.
Right.
We do have them on our website, and we do announcements on Facebook, and we do promote whatever they have going on. But it's not an advertising or a marketing
Right.
program like you might see with Dave Logan or
Totally.
some of those others. We don't put out a brochure. We don't do direct mail. We say, hey, this business shares our values, and it started out slow, and now we're getting applications almost daily.
Yeah.
So we're very happy about it, and all over the state of
Good.
Colorado. Again, so
it's so important to have that representation statewide, and not just, I think we often focus on our larger cities in the states, and we miss out on those different nuances all across metro regions, all the way to rural parts of Colorado. And I love that you go out of your way to learn more about them and see if they fit your brand, because one of those things is that as if someone has found out that they're certified in this, or they went through your website and they looked them up, right, you're putting your reputation on that line as well. And so if anything happens along that journey with them, it goes back kind of on you one way. And so I always I give a grain of salt when I tell people, go to this or do this, but I always say, I haven't had the direct experience with them, but I know that they do X, Y, and Z, and it's my way of saying, I haven't gone in and seen their books or seen, specifics of what that is, but.
And I don't look at, their books, I should say, we don't look at their books or anything like that either. But what we do, for instance, I've turned down 2.
Okay.
And I've removed certification from 1.
Oh.
So I turned 1 down. You also have to have been in business 2.5 years or longer.
Okay.
And you have to have a website.
Okay.
Because if you don't have the basics, you're not solid enough for us yet. You could get there, strive to get there, but one of them didn't have a website, and we just couldn't certify them. Another one, I found that the business address, and this is why the site visits are so critical.
Right.
The business address was a motel room.
Oh my gosh, was it really?
Yeah.
Okay, I've gotten like the homes and things like that, not a motel.
No, this was a motel room, and it
Okay.
was supposedly a clothing manufacturer, and it's like, okay, this is not going to work for us, right?
Right, yeah.
And then we did remove certification from 1 when we started getting complaints that the owner was not returning phone calls and things like that, because communication is one of our number 1 values. And it really doesn't matter to me. I tell my business clients this. It doesn't matter so much what you're saying to somebody as that you are getting back to them, and you are returning those phone calls and those
Being
emails.
somewhat responsive.
So we take it pretty seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can't think of, that's pretty bold. Let me just take that right back. But that is an attitude that you embrace, Joni, being a bold person and walking in any room regardless of what that room looks like. Can you speak to how that should be something that we as women should foster and maybe incorporate more of in our life?
Well, you talk about health and wellness, right? First, I tell, I'm a mother of a daughter, and I have a granddaughter, and I have 3 daughters-in-law, right? Okay, so I tell all of the young women in my life, and I've said it to you, Juliet, is make sure from the very beginning that you do everything you can to shore up your safety net so that you never have to be totally dependent on a man or on anybody else, right?
Yeah.
If you can do that, and it doesn't mean that you don't go into a marriage and share finances and things like that, but always know that if at any time you find that you have to support yourself or your family, you know how to do it.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't shy away from wealth. And this is tough because some women do. They think, well, that's too much. I'm making too much. I'm not worth it.
Yeah.
But you're worth every penny you can make, right?
Yeah.
And having that ability to take care of yourself, or having personal wealth, and I'm not a financial advisor, it gives you options all along the way, and it reduces fear.
Sure.
So you were talking about boldly walking into situations. If you know that you can stand on your own 2 feet and take care of your families if you need to, or your businesses, it does embolden you a little bit, right? It also provides you the opportunity to spend more time on physical health and mental health, and just the ability to be able to afford those types of activities, to be able to focus on the right foods, to be able. So I go back to building personal wealth, or the ability to take care of ourselves, as a core value.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'll tell. I have one son getting married this year, and I've told I call her my daughter-in-law, because she's not my daughter-in-law yet. So, but we love her. And my other two daughters-in-law. You're marrying my sons, but remember, make sure that you're never totally dependent on them.
And that's your son.
They're
giving that advice to.
Yeah.
But it is a form of. So there's two things that you actually highlighted in answering that, and that is one, financial freedom really is financial self-care, and that is a crucial factor, right? That plays into every part of your life. We depend on finances to do what we do on a daily basis. And then the second part of that is really the empowerment piece, and being empowered to walk in and do what you like to do without having to constantly repress a thought or an emotion that you have, because you're afraid that when this happens, or when you do this, the effect of it would lead to something else, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
important.
Yeah, and here's another thing, Juliet, in audience, that women business owners really struggle with, and that is trying to do everything. Right? And you've all heard, we can do everything, we just can't do it all at once. But trying to do everything and their self-care suffers from that. I will tell you that you must not feel guilty about some self-indulgence.
You absolutely should not.
No, and it's hard for women. Women will go, oh, I worked all day, and my kids need me, and I need to make dinner, and I haven't talked to my husband, and my mother needs me,
and people that need you.
And they don't take care of themselves. And if I'm coaching a business owner, a female business owner, I'll say something like, you sound really stressed, you need to go get a massage, I don't have time to get a massage. Oh my gosh, I can't. I guarantee you, if you go get the massage, you will be much more effective. Or hire somebody to clean your house, right? If you're making even just a little bit over what you need to, that's an indulgence.
Absolutely it is. And
it
takes away so many other pressures that you have.
Do it, and don't feel guilty about it. I just read a book that said that the word guilt doesn't even exist in the majority of languages. It exists in English, right?
Okay.
Interesting. But it doesn't even exist in the majority of the world's languages, and so we hang on to it, right? Women particularly.
Oh yes, it's over 40% of women choose not to focus on their self-care because of guilt. And it's this feeling of, well, it's a cost, right? If I'm focusing on myself, whether I do that massage or I take that time to invest in a business idea that I have, etc., then it's time not spent with my kid, with my husband, or with my friends, and those can all be drainers. So even if you don't have that family that's there's still other people that can demand your attention. And if you're not holistically whole, then you can't be there for them or yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And you show up much better if you do. Yeah.
So Colorado Women's Alliance, you shared, has a program called Does the Community Know You? Right? So what is that curriculum? What does that look like?
It's called Colorado Women, Does the Community Know Your Name?
Okay.
Right? And we'll be, when we take it on the road, right? And we just presented at Colorado Women's Day on March 6th, I think.
It's a Friday,
Yeah, it was a Friday. And we're heading to Fort Morgan in May to do it. And really, it's just a presentation and discussion. First on how do you become kind of a credible, go-to, knowledgeable person that people trust and believe. And part of that is knowledge. And so how do we know? How do we know if you have a neighbor who wants to know how to change the school district calendar, right? I don't know, I'm making this up, right? And they go, I wonder how to do that. If you can develop yourself into that go-to person where they say, I know who will know,
right?
All of a sudden you have power and influence in your community on a number of on many different issues, right? So a part of it is being a connector, but being a connector of value. You know, we mentioned earlier when we were talking about the Certified Business Program, it's not, hey, I know somebody or I met somebody once who owns a pizzeria, so, you know, go there. It is, don't give references, don't give bad information. Always be credible and always give good information. And so how do you develop yourself into that? And how do you get involved in your community? Many women might want to run for public office. They don't know how to do it. We're not a campaign school by any means, but we can tell you there are, you know, there's 64 counties in the state of Colorado. They all have governing boards. They all have boards and commissions. They all have, you know, they need people to come and dedicate their time. And then there's municipalities and there's school districts and there's federal government representation. And my gosh, how do you talk to your state legislator? And how do you get your point across there? And they want you to talk to them.
Yes, they do. They want to hear from you.
They want to hear from you, but most people think, I don't want to bother them, right? Well, you do. So we teach not only who to go to, but how to communicate respectfully. You know, we have another one that we do called How to Convince Uncle Bubba over the Thanksgiving table without antagonizing him. So,
I wish that was, we'll come back to that.
Okay,
that's a good one.
So how do you influence without antagonizing?
Yes,
And so we teach that as well. And it's so different. Women on the Eastern Plains or the West Slope or the metro area or Pueblo or Boulder, their women are so different in what they're trying to influence, or even realizing they are trying to influence.
Right,
but,
if anything
how do you do it effectively? So we teach women, and it's just a workshop. It's not a multiple week thing. You know, we'll come out when we go to Fort Morgan. We're going back out to Fort Morgan because we did coffee shop hops out there, which we do throughout the state, where we just listen to women.
Right.
You know, we're going to be at this coffee shop and Brush or whatever, and come tell us what you need, and we'll see if we can help. Right? So this is a follow-up, and it's a ranching community, and they're far from the capital in Denver, and so we thought, this is what we heard they really need. How do I become that? How do I get involved? And they're sometimes afraid to do it. So we're going to go out, we'll have lunch, we'll do a presentation, and talk with women. Let's just talk, right?
Yeah. So is there a cost for them to participate in the programs or attend these coffees, or what is that?
Well, it just depends. So we go out and do the I get sponsors where I can, right? So we had sponsors for the most recent coffee shop hops we did those in Yuma County, and we did them in Brush, but we've done them in the Roaring Fork Valley and Durango and all over the place.
Right.
So I look for sponsors to pay the costs so that women don't have to, you know. But if I can't find a sponsor to sponsor it, then we'll charge some nominal amount to cover the cost of food and things like that.
That makes sense. Now, a couple of things. You mentioned the how to properly convince, Uncle Bubba at the dinner table. And I think that's incredibly important, not just on a national landscape, as we see more and more people getting very aggressive on social or on news. But I've even seen it come more locally, too, as people testify or share testimony on something. And the degree of, and I seem to think everyone's very passionate about where they come from and what they would like to share about. And generally, they have some fire in them that they're out there doing it, right? So that's totally understandable. But I also see the other side of, do you hear yourself and what you're telling this person? Because you're really speaking at them in a way that's just so bad, right? And I love that you've added that in. Has that's been a newer part of this program, or
so what happens with How to Convince Uncle Bubba over the Thanksgiving table is that people kind of want us to do that prior to family gathering season, right?
Oh, okay.
So that there aren't these big family.
Totally.
Yeah. So we haven't done it actually for probably 3 years because of the pandemic and everything. Yeah.
So we'll have to reintroduce that around the fall.
Yeah. Let's reintroduce that going into the holidays. So, but the the primary piece of that is to be respectful.
Mhm.
So I have a 20-year career, had a 20-year career in municipal government, and sat through city council meetings every
Mhm.
Monday night for
Right, so you've
20
heard all
years,
those
right?
people.
And I can tell you that if somebody comes to speak to the mayor and
Mhm.
city council, if they come in shorts with paint all over it, and that immediately says I have no respect for this
Mhm.
governing body,
Mhm.
right? And so the credibility
Mhm.
goes down. I say show some respect. Even if you know the mayor, for
Mhm.
instance, don't come in and say, "Hey, pal,"
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Come in and refer to them by their formal title when you come
Mhm.
in.
Mhm.
Don't come in and just yell at people. The minute you're the victim of yelling, you tune out anything that person has to say.
Absolutely.
So if you want to be, and don't cry, oh my goodness, women, even if you have to practice, don't cry. Women,
Which can be hard.
oh,
when
it can
it's
be
such
very
a
hard
topic
for
that's
women
close.
because
Yes.
we do when we get passionate, right?
Yes.
The other thing that a lot of women do is their pitch of their voice goes up, or they nervously giggle or whatever, right? So when we do one-on-one training on communication, we kind of practice that, right?
Okay.
But how do you communicate effectively?
Mhm.
And then and it all comes down to respect, right?
Mhm.
Show respect, be polite. And in today's world, um, there are even people, I've heard people say, that hasn't worked, therefore I'm going to just come out and
Okay.
blast them.
Sure.
Well, go ahead and do that, but I can tell you that's not going to work either. So
Yeah.
when you go into any situation,
Mhm.
if you're negotiating a business contract or whatever, know what outcome you want before you go in.
Mhm.
And who has the most influence that you're talking to. Be a
Right.
little strategic about it.
Totally.
If you just want to go in and hurt somebody, you're not going to influence or change it
Yeah.
at all. So what do you
Have
want?
a larger
What do
picture.
you want?
Yeah. And you actually you touched on something, and it was right in my mind, is that these skills that you're teaching them to talk at those family gatherings, or to have the respect and embrace these communication skills, and how you present yourself and credibility are things that you translate in every part of your life. It's not just for getting out in their community. It's dealing with your personal side of it. It's dealing with your work side of it, and it's infusing these skills, soft skills, that along the way have either gone away or have slowly gone down, right? You I want to say maybe right before COVID. It could have been the year before. I've slept since then, right? But there was also a newer program that you started as a way for folks to support the Women's Alliance, and I believe you branded it as Friends of CWA. What does that look like for an individual? Or
right. So we have both a C3 and a C4, two nonprofits. One's a foundation. It's so you can become a friend of the Colorado Women's Alliance for as little as $25 a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really inexpensive, right? And
it's
you
probably
just
cheaper than actual friendships and going out to
yeah,
dine.
exactly. It's cheaper than taking your buddy out for a cup of coffee. But the rates do go up, and you get more when the higher rate. But it's just a way to support us. And if you become a friend, you get all our communication. Depending on the level of friendship, it goes up to $500. You might get a logo and a link to your your personal site, or what? Not your personal site.
Right, not personal promotion, but your personal business.
Your business site or something. You might get free tickets to some of our events. At a certain level, you get a surprise box, which is pretty darn cool. And I won't tell you everything that's in it, but you'd like it. And by the way, it all goes back to relaxation, right?
Okay.
So it's got kind of that. Spend some time reading and having a cup of tea and eating some chocolate. I'll give you one hint: eating some instant chocolate, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a certain level there, and then we have a partnership with Colorado Biz Magazine now too. So for women, and going back now to the women-owned business or the women certified businesses. If you become a certified business, you get a free subscription to Colorado Biz Magazine, and they're going to do a full spread on our businesses and their women's edition coming up and stuff. So we try to create partnerships and leverage relationships that will benefit women in our community. We have a lot of men that follow us too, though.
Right, and I think it's because, you know, the branding and the way that you're presenting it has always been, you know, while it is, the focus is women that you're going out to support, that you are also welcome to anyone else that wants to show up to it.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, there's still probably going to be obviously more women than men in the room because that's the audience that you're having there, but that doesn't mean that it has to only be women that come through the doors, and I think you've been pretty open about that publicly.
We have men on our board too. So we have our board of directors is mostly women, but we have some men. And then our advisory council, which is in 18 counties throughout the state, that's all women. But what I always say is men do come to our events. We have fun events. We shoot, and we eat chocolate, and we just do, you know, we don't come have chicken and watch a presentation, right?
Yeah.
We have the women of the airwaves talking about, you know, the crazy election season, and we have garden parties, and we had a female race car driver speak this year. I've got a surprise coming up.
Ooh.
But anyway, so we have fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so a lot of men do come, and what I always say is men do come to our events. In fact, the smart ones come to our events.
Right.
Because they're going to meet all these incredible women.
Yes,
too,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, and it grows their knowledge, and as we just shared a little bit ago, right, knowledge is power. What do you say, and this is just an off-the-wall question that I thought of, what do you say with men being on your board? And as you shared, it's only a few, so it's the bulk of your board is women, and all of your advisory members are women. So you have a couple men that are on your board. So what do you say to those that might say, you know, men don't, like, how are you in this role when you're not, you can't relate to a woman, or you are not a woman to speak on women's issues, right?
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I will say all issues are women's issues. And so I always fight back a little bit during the legislative session on that, because people will say, well, this is a woman's issue. Well, so is this, right? So is this and this and everything else that's happening in Colorado. So we have 11 board members right now. We have 3 men. We have one on the West Slope. We have I'll just name them, Kenneth Monfort of Monfort Companies, and Jeff Hunt from Centennial Institute, Matthew Bremen, who's on the Fruita City Council on the West Slope. And they have been to our events, and they've followed our social media, and they've looked at our programs, and they've said, we really like what you're doing, right? We really like what you're doing, and we'd like to support you. And so to me, having a male perspective, because if we get, in any situation, if you get into groupthink, and by the way, even with women, I just bristle when I hear women think, well, we don't all think the same way. You know, I've even been accused of, how could you say that if you're a woman?
Oh my goodness.
Well, you know, because I am a woman, and I have a daughter and granddaughter and daughters-in-law, and, you know. So, but we don't all think alike. And men are a critical part of our world and our lives, and women are, you know, we're not anti-male whatsoever. And so if they're such a critical part of us, we need to be hearing their voices as well, right? And I think lately we have subsets of women, I'm embarrassed to say, who are trying to marginalize the male voice. And I don't think that's going to do anybody any good either, right? We want, maybe we have not been heard as much over the decades, but we're gaining parity now. And then we also, you know, we encourage women to run for office. And women do the same thing they do with business. They go, well, how's it going to impact my life? How's it going to impact my family? How's it, you know, and men don't. Men go, you think I'd be a good senator? Okay, I'll run, right? So, very different approaches. We don't believe that women are any more or less qualified than men, or men are any more or less qualified than women to run for office. What we like to do, we do research, by the way, in the field, a couple thousand women every couple of years we talk to, find out what the issues of uppermost importance are to them. And we share that information with female candidates and male candidates, right? The biggest voting bloc, everybody needs to know what the top important policy issues are. So let's work together. We recently were approached by a man who said he comes to everything, and he said maybe we should start a male Friends of Colorado Women's Alliance. Like that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't have the capacity to do it right now.
You want to take it on and go for it. Why not?
So we have male Friends of Colorado Women's Alliance. We have male-owned businesses that are certified businesses, but they have women in leadership positions. And so everything goes back to, in business or in nonprofit and women's issues, it all goes back to respect, mutual respect.
So important. So for people, excuse me, people that are interested in finding out more about CWA, are you present online? And if so, what are the platforms that they can find you on?
Yeah. ColoradoWomen'sAlliance.org, and that's women with an E-N, ColoradoWomen'sAlliance.org. We're on Facebook. We tweet. We're on LinkedIn. Just all you have to do is go in and search Colorado Women's Alliance. So we're the only Colorado Women's Alliance.
Yes.
There's Colorado everything. But we're the only Colorado Women's Alliance. .org.
Are there programs or events that are coming up that folks should know about?
Yeah, I think the next one, so in May we already talked a little bit about the rural Colorado training, and then in June we're going to the West Slope and we're going to do it two days there. We're going to do Colorado Women, Does the Community Know Your Name? We're going to do an elected women's panel of women who have served in elected office or are serving, so they can talk about what's life like when you serve in elected office. And we're partnering with West Slope Pharmalogic on presenting a panel on the cost of healthcare and all the components that go into the cost of healthcare. And that will be, it's like 2 days of just fun on the West Slope, and we'll do some coffee on the West Slope too.
Might as well. I mean, you're already there, right?
Yeah, all of that will be on the website, and you can go to sign up for our newsletter, and we send that out periodically too. We don't do it every day, but so you're not bombarded, but you do get it.
You still get alerted about things that are important. Are they? Do you have opportunities for women to be volunteers or support your programs or any way? Or for the woman that is not connected to a business, can they still be plugged in with you? And I just feel like those are a couple of things that if we have viewers in those areas.
Yeah, and so Colorado Women's Alliance certified businesses, friend of Colorado Women's Alliance, which is really important. Just get on the mailing list, come to the events. If you're in a county that's not already represented, we're looking for advisory council members. And we have 18 of the 64 counties, so there's plenty of opportunity there. And then this is a very small organization. We've been around for 12 years now, but I'm part-time contract executive director, and we have no other paid staff. So I'm always looking for people who can help us with putting things on our website in a timely manner, for helping us with graphic design work, printing. I love to have young women particularly help us with research projects, right? And, what are the trends of female voters in Colorado over the last 2, 4, 6, 8 years? What's happened? Are there more? Are there less? Are they affiliating with parties or not? Or what's happening? So I love to have that kind of research going on. And then just volunteering to help at the door at our events and social media. We have a really wonderful young woman who volunteers to do social media for us. But we're happy to
add more on that. So there's a lot of ways.
So everything that goes into running an organization, I have volunteer opportunities for that.
Well, because it's you.
Yeah, it's because otherwise it's me.
Because otherwise it's you. So those are all great things to know. So if you are a woman that's in Colorado and looking to kind of get activated, whether it's just about awareness of programs that are out there or research, so you can learn about the data and trends for women here and across the states, all the way to volunteering for programs and events, and even partnering with the organization in some capacity as a volunteer or friend. Those
Looking
are
for
all great
grants would be
opportunities.
huge, helping us find grants, yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Joni.
Thank
Was there
you.
anything I didn't ask you that you were hoping to get across to folks today?
No, thank you for the opportunity, Juliet. We're always happy to work with you in
Yes.
so many capacities. And I just leave everybody with this. I don't know who originally said it, but I repeat it all the time, and that is chance favors those in motion.
Yeah.
So if you are a business owner, you've got to get out of the business and get out into the community and participate in chamber events and things. If you are wanting to develop an image and a persona of being a trustworthy go-to person, nobody's going to find you in your living room. You have to be in motion, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to knock on the door except a pollster and
Right.
say, hey, what do you think about this, right? You have to get out, you
Census.
have to pay attention, you have to read, you have to participate.
Right. Yeah.
And once you start participating,
It's
the
a whole nother world.
doors open
Right.
and left, and walk through them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hold back. If an opportunity arises, walk through it.
Absolutely. Well, that is such a great note to end on, so I won't add to it. Thank you all for tuning in with us. If you haven't already, hit the share button on this video so others in your network can also view this. And thank you for tuning in, whether you are in real time with us, have watched this as a replay, or tuned in the evening or weekend. We always appreciate seeing that engagement level on the videos. Once again, thank our guest today, Joni Inman, of course, with all her numerous hats. Today she was talking with us about Colorado Women's Alliance, specifically because we just finished Women's Month, so we wanted to bring her in and have some of that voice in the room with us. But I appreciate all of you for coming on here, and we will see you next Friday.
Thank you. Alrighty. That was fun.
It was fun, huh?
Who's next? Who's up next?
So the next one's going to be the director from Miss Earth. She just took over for Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and other